But now they are throwing stones and see this one with machete. The one in white dress. When I saw this, I was afraid. I couldn't believe this could happen in my country.
Pour le moment, je suis peur d'y retourner dans mon pays parce que je sais que la situation est toujours dangereuse. Ils ont tué mon père, moi il m'a poignardé et j'ai été brusquement tombé.
We're here in Mahama refugee camp right now in Rwanda, right on the border of Tanzania. About 30,000 Burundians have fled here because of political instability in the country. The camp sort of hit its capacity. It's a sprawling complex. But in the lead up to the presidential elections on July 15th, they're expecting a lot more people to come here.
Only 10 years removed from a brutal civil war, Burundi, one of the poorest countries in the world, is in the midst of a crisis. While the ruling National Council for the Defense of Democracy, Forces for the Defense of Democracy Party, or CNDD-FDD for short, has been accused of intimidating, arresting, and murdering opposition figures and journalists for years. Things have increasingly ramped up after President Pierre Nkurunziza announced his decision to run for a third term in April, a move many say is illegal. Protesters have taken to the streets, and dozens have been killed. Journalists, politicians, and tens of thousands of citizens have fled the country. A failed coup attempt by members of the president's own party in May, and a subsequent delay in the elections, have left the country tense, as rumors swirl of a potential civil war and the presidential election scheduled for July 15th nears. At the Mahama camp, we met John, a young Burundian who fled his country under threat. Even having escaped Burundi, he still fears for his safety and asked for his identity to be withheld.
And why did you personally flee Burundi?
Pour le moment, je suis peur d'y retourner dans mon pays parce que je sais que la situation est toujours dangereuse. Mon père a été assassiné par les jeunes du parti politique, surnommés les Imbonerakure. Quelques groupes de personnes sont venus, ils ont toqué sur la porte. Mon père a résisté d'ouvrir, mais ils ont essayé d'ouvrir avec force. Par conséquent, ils ont parvenu à y entrer. Ils ont tué mon père, moi il m'a poignardé et j'ai été brusquement tombé. Ils croyaient que j'étais mort, mais malheureusement je respirais un peu. J'ai entré dans le salle d'opération pour constater que les intestins sont en forme. Maintenant je suis en forme, mais les traces restent toujours sur mon corps. This is my tent.
This is your tent?
Yeah, I live here. Depuis que le gouvernement a réussi de prendre le deuxième mandat, les opposants ont commencé à quitter le pays. Le parti du pouvoir, le parti qui est au pouvoir ont commencé à persécuter les opposants ainsi que les membres de l'opposition.
I mean, do you have any hope now that there will be a peaceful situation?
I don't think, because my enemy are alive. If they see me, they could run after me.
And who are your enemies?
My enemies is the youth of the government. Yeah, they are so dangerous in the whole country.
But now they are throwing stones. You can see them with machete. These are in Bonarakure. And see this one with machete. The one in white dress. When I saw this, I was afraid. I couldn't believe this could happen in my country.
Have the Imbonerakure, have they tried to recruit you and your friends?
Je leur dis que avec la tuerie, je ne peux pas adhérer dans votre groupe.
Les Imbonerakure disent qu'ils ne tuent pas, mais ils éliminent les obstacles. Yeah. C'est pour cela que c'est cela qu'il dit.
So, in the camp right now, there's still a very palpable fear. Some of the young men we spoke to, they wouldn't even show their faces because they're scared that there could be retribution for their families back home, or even that the Imbonerakure could send someone here to hurt them. They told us that even if there was a political resolution in the coming days, they'd still be scared to go back home because they don't know what's waiting for them. And there's still a potential threat from some of the youth militias or just people affiliated with the government looking to take revenge.
Many activists, journalists, and politicians have sought refuge in Rwanda, like Kedi Nivyabandi, a poet who organized women-led protests.
In terms of your political activism, what were you doing in Burundi the past few months?
I wouldn't even call it political activism. I would call it Burundi activism. I stood up and decided to raise my voice to speak for Burundi as a country, not for a particular political party. And so when the third term of the President Nkurunziza came to the table, and when he was officially announced as a candidate for a third term, I knew very well, like thousands of other Burundians, that this was going to take us backwards, that this might take us into a war.
But right now we're sitting in Rwanda. Can you tell us why you're here?
So right after the coup, anyone who was against the third term was labeled as one of the collaborators of the one of the coup plotters. So I had to leave the country unexpectedly. I had to literally flee, and came to Rwanda, where I was able to be safer.
So you were under direct threat. I mean, what's the atmosphere like in Burundi for activists, for anyone within the opposition?
Anyone who has a different opinion from that of President Nkurunziza right now has to either flee or hide or go into hiding.
And it's not just arrests, right? Some of them are being...
Some of them, it's arrests. Some of them are tortured. Others are killed. One of the opposition members was killed on the streets of Bujumbura just a few days, I think about a week after the coup. I personally know of people who are just civilians like myself. They're not involved in any politics. But as they fled to Rwanda for safety, like thousands of other Burundians, they have been stopped along the way by the police, looking for their phones, laptops, and if they have any pictures of the protests going on in Burundi, some of them will be taken to the SNR offices and have been tortured there. A state of solid fear, that's what I would call it. You have a democracy turning into a dictatorship. In 2015, under the eyes of the entire world, it is a failure, I think, of the entire international community and of us all as human beings to allow this to happen.
It's sort of showing the impotence of the international community.
This goes beyond Burundi. Of course, it's huge for the people of Burundi, but it means a lot for Africa, first of all. We have a lot of elections going on in Africa this year. I can bet you the rest of the presidents of these African countries are watching, and they're taking tips. Right now, this is a class 101 on how to turn a democracy into a dictatorship.
So we've just crossed the border into Burundi. There's about 10 days left until the presidential election. We're told that the capital city of Bujumbura is relatively calm right now, but last night, one of the generals involved in a coup attempt in May issued a statement telling the president to prepare for war. No one's really sure how that's going to play out. The country's awash in rumors like that right now, but it remains to be seen whether things are actually going to happen before the presidential election on July 15th.